Okay, welcome to Blue Light for Change then, and this is an interview with Tom Curry. He is a former Sussex police officer and he received a life-changing injury on duty after 20 plus years of service and medically retired from the service a good few years ago. He is author, campaigner and a humanitarian, and Tom is currently leading a national campaign to seek medal recognition for severely injured emergency service personnel. He's the admin of 4 Facebook groups, one for each of the emergency services and another for all 3 combined. The purpose of these is to promote the campaign and to spread the word. Tom's 2 books give a harrowing account of the scale of the problem. He says he truly hopes that one day the national shame will be revealed, and when it does, he says he believes it will be on a par with the Royal Mail scandal. Tom, welcome to Blue Light for Change. Can you please tell us a little bit about the medal campaign and why it's so important and where it currently stands?
Hello Ian, and thanks very much for having me on. Yes, the campaign. Well, it's doing quite well at the moment. It is. I've got 145 cross-party MPs who've declared their support for the campaign. That is pretty huge, considering there's not been a vote. They've declared their support via my members on my Facebook group who are their constituents, who've lobbied them. And also there's an early day motion where some MPs are coming forward and signing that. I doubt very much whether there's been another campaign where there's been so many MPs declare their support without there being a vote. That's very encouraging. Whilst there's 145, it means that another 17, and that'll mean a quarter of the House are in support of it. That doesn't mean that 3/4 of the House is against it. It means I haven't reached them. This is an indication that if it went to a vote, and I don't think it will need to, that it would almost be unanimously in favour of it. I can't think of anybody who'd have such a cold heart to say that these emergency service, because it's not just for police, do not deserve recognition when they've had a life-changing injury and lost their job.
Can you explain to us the difference that your campaign has to, say, the recent awards of the posthumous Elizabeth Medal? Can you just run through what the difference is?
Yes. Well, the Elizabeth emblem is, as you said, posthumous. So it doesn't go far enough and doesn't cover those who escape death narrowly and survive. If I can take you back in time and give a little bit of a history lesson, as far as the police are concerned, since 1829, when the Mets were formed, there's been the overlooking and the forgotten killed on duty and injured. Now, in those 200 years, there's been over 5,000 police killed on duty who've had no form of recognition. That means that in the 200 years, the ones who've been injured and lost their job, medically discharged, there must have been hundreds of thousands. Now, some people will be thinking, well, wait a minute, there are medals and they've been recognised. Yes, there are, but they're only gallantry medals. The gallantry medals are the George Cross, the George Medal, the King's Gallantry Medal, and the King's Police Medal. The bar for gallantry is so high, very few ever achieve that. That's because most officers are ambushed or sprung upon. I'll take you back to a few cases. In 2005, In Bradford, police officer Sharon Brzezinski and Teresa Milburn were shot. Miraculously, Teresa survived, but Sharon died. They got no medal recognition because there was no medals available outside of gallantry. They couldn't act gallantly because it was unexpected. Then we go to 2010, high-profile case, PC David Rathband up in Northumbria, shot by the swine Raoul Moat in the face, blinded. Sadly, he took his own life later. He got no medal recognition. How can you show gallantry if you're sat in a police car, you look up and there's a shotgun, it fires, and it blinds you? No gallantry, no medal. I'll give you an example of a lady who's in my group now. Her name is Pam White. She was a policewoman in 1983 outside of Harrods when the IRA bomb went off. Three police were killed, 14 police were injured, including Pam White. She received a life-changing injury and lost the job she always loved, this 24-year-old kid. She suffered ever since with PTSD and with her injuries. So, for 40 years, Pam and her colleagues who were killed got nothing. But how would you feel if you were Pam White now? Last year, March the 9th, she saw the 3 officers, after 41 years, mind, get their medal recognition posthumously. But how worthless will she feel?
Now you
Because
say
her actions were exactly the same as those honoured. It was the same incident and the same bomb. But because she didn't die and she was saved by perhaps the miracle of surgery or medicine, she survived. That is a scandal and has to be put right. You can't have 2 officers at the same incident. Now I'm talking police, but it could be firemen this afternoon. If 2 firemen go into a fire and one is burned to death, he will get the posthumous Elizabeth England. What about the guy who might be on a life support machine? He'll get nothing until he dies. That is why MPs are piling in on this, more than those in police circles, more than police circles have ever done. So we're right on track for this to happen. I've got the support of the Scottish government. They support it and they're tracking it. And the Welsh government, they're supporting and tracking it. I now have all the unions on board. That's the Police Federation England Wales, the Northern Ireland Federation, the Fire Brigade unions, and Unison. But they're pretty irrelevant at the moment, or pretty irrelevant now, because it's with Parliament, it's reached the Cabinet Office. What's happening in the Cabinet Office, I don't know, because this government is addicted to secrecy, and even if it isn't a state secret, they don't share it with the guy who's leading the campaign. That's what we're up against. Now I push on with trying to get media coverage, just so they know I'm not going away. It's been in the Daily Express, it's going to be in the Daily Mirror online, Daily Mail online this weekend in a series. So I'm going to keep pecking away, showing them that I'm still about. Otherwise this will sit in some bureaucrat's tray and just be tick on for years.
when did you start this campaign? How long has it been running?
I tried with the campaign over 20 years ago because I was injured in '89. But this is not about me now. About 35 years later, I've got over the the pain it caused me of being ignored and having been conned with propaganda that there are those out there who care. But I tried 20 years ago, but there was no internet, so I couldn't get it, off the ground. I started this back in September 2023. Now, I started off first trying to get support in the obvious place with police circles, with the NAPO, National Association of Retired Police Officers, and with the Federation. They astoundingly blanked me and put barriers in my way. They told me that they could not support this in its current form. There's nothing wrong with the current form because the current form has never changed. It's still exactly the same. They dismissed me because I'm a nobody. And I have a saying that people have said on the sites, on my groups now, that they've repeated back to me. Nobody listens to a nobody. Until the nobodies unite, then you'll command attention and be able to demand change. I'm a nobody. But listen, why does it take a nobody to alter this national disgrace and to point it out, which has gone on for 200 years? In that 200 years, how many prime ministers have there been? How many MPs? How many commissioners of the Metropolitan Police? How many chief constables? How many police federation has there been who've got up there and said, we care about our officers. We care and we will protect them and we will do everything to support them.
Why would they not be interested in supporting that campaign at the very outset?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because it came from me, a nobody. So they weren't willing to even pay interest and hear about it. They immediately shut down because we are fed with propaganda from those, including the Federation, who are not the people's champions. They are not there because they care. The Federation is there, the majority of them, I'm not saying all of them, but I haven't met any that are not there for what's in it for them. It takes them off the streets. They've joined the police, but they're not policemen. They become office and clerks. They're nice and safe in their office, and they lose touch. They will go through the motions and feed you the insincerity propaganda, but that's exactly what it is. It's insincere, it's propaganda. You'll get that from the prime ministers, from many MPs, from commissioners who go along, for instance, to unveil a pair of curtains to a cop who's been killed on duty. And they will say apparently sincere words, and they'll bow their head in prayer. They should be bowing their head in shame, because they know that they should know this is going on. And they also will then check their watch and go off and have their lunch, and they won't give it another thought until the next set of curtains. That's why it's taken 200 years. If somebody, rather than this nobody, had started this off years ago, there wouldn't be any need for it. But those who are not affected don't really care. The whole world thinks, if it don't affect me, then Sodom. That's what they really think. I've had the Federation who blanked me. 2 guys in Sussex, inspectors, Federation, appointed to oversee the welfare of police, said, we can't support this in its current form. I asked them the obvious question, the chairman and the secretary of Sussex Federation, what's wrong with the current form? And they did what villains did to us when we interviewed them, and they made no comment and didn't reply. That's when you got them in a corner. So when I wrote my book, this one, Dysfunctional Police Family add insult to injury. There's the medal that you ain't going to get with a black cross on it. There's Parliament, who are the accomplices, and the police car to show. But it's for I've extended it to fire and ambulance as well. When I wrote that book, I wrote in there, it's astounding that two men should block me, because you can't get the National Federation headquarters without going through your county. National Federation don't take phone calls, and they don't answer emails outside if it doesn't come from county. I wish I'd had a job like that in the police, where you don't have contact with people. So when I wrote the book, I wrote in there, it's astounding that two men appointed for the welfare of officers are so disinterested and dismissive. And I would suggest to you that Messrs Deegan and Standing, which is their names, are to police welfare what the Chuckle Brothers were to comedy. Except the Chuckle Brothers were quite nice fellas and could be quite funny. I also named and shamed the Chief Constable of Sussex, who, when it was in the paper, I had been emailing her and phoning her office for months. Got no reply. So I'm a bit of a tactician, and I'm streetwise. And when I got a reporter in Sussex involved, I said to him, ask the Chief Constable for a quote. He said, will she know about it? I said, no. But she'll want to after a news hound is sniffing about. After months, that afternoon, I got a phone call from a staff officer who said, I'm sorry we haven't got to you, but we've had short staff and we've had annual leave and we've had this, that and the other. I said, is it anything to do with the news hound? No. What was that, right? So I told him about it, and it was quoted in the paper that she was eager to meet Mr. Curry to find out more about the campaign for injured officers.
Have you met with her?
That was the 15th of September 23, when she said she was keen to meet me. Now, her staff officer made an appointment to meet me on the 4th of January 24. Now, that she's that keen to meet me, it's 4 months, right? But he said she was too busy and she couldn't. Well, I stuck it out. I tried to get it earlier, but I stuck it out. On the 3rd of January, having waited the 4 months, my phone rang and the staff officer cancelled me and said that the Chief Constable had decided that it was a national campaign, that it would have to go to the NPCC. That's the National Police Chief Councils. Oh. Now, the Chief Constable knew in September I wasn't suggesting a medal just for Sussex officers. Now, she could have still gone ahead with the appointment, and she could have said, whilst I'm going to hold back the support of me as a Chief Constable, I fully support this personally. A leader who lacks leadership, who can't make a decision, passed it to the National Police Chief Council. I had to push them, and eventually the staff officer said, we don't support campaigns. I wrote back to him and said, hang on, here's an article from the Police Federation whereby it says the NPCC are supporting the Elizabeth emblem posthumous. Can you tell me how you supported that, but you can't support this? I got no reply. So right now, with all the support, the Chief Constables who value their officers do not support this. The Superintendents Association heard my brief in the beginning, but they failed to reply to me from then on, and the Superintendents Association do not support this. So we have the hierarchy in the police who do not support their officers, but they will be getting up now saying, we support our officers and it's the frontline troops who matter. It's cobblers. We were conned. We were conned by them. We were conned by Federation. As far as Federation is concerned, I want my subscription money back in the same way that people got their subscriptions back for the mis-selling of PPI. I was sold the NARPO, the Federation, on the basis that they were going to support me and they were going to support their officers and represent them. I never had that in 22 years as a cop. I'm telling you, I have run myself ragged ringing police circles, chief constables, federations all over the country. Many, many police circles. None of them return the phone calls. None of them reply to emails. I think they think they know it. I'm a nobody and they ain't going to reply. The police circles, I get this impression, right? Nobody answers the phone now. It's all voicemails. They don't reply. If you finally pin somebody down, they say, oh, it wasn't on the voicemail. Emails are so easy to say, we didn't receive it. And if you do ever get an officer and speak to them, they're always on their way to a meeting. All the police service are on their way to meetings.
Meetings about meetings.
That is why nothing gets done, perhaps. But I don't think they're on their way to meetings. That's an easy way of getting you off the phone. I've heard enough. You're boring me now. I'm off. End of story. Now then. So those who are not injured don't want to know. The police force is not a family. They don't stick together. I don't know how many times I experienced this with officers who fall foul of the system. Many, many times not through any fault of their own that they've done wrong. Yes, there are officers who do wrong, but many times there's a complaint. But I saw officers who were supposed to be their mates, the so-called police family, distance themselves immediately. Self-preservation kicks in. They don't want to be part of somebody who's in the spotlight. They will cross the road rather than meet a mate who they've worked in a car with, who've watched each other's back. They've drank together. They've socialised. They will distance themselves because you're in the khaki and they're not going to be linked with you. The police force, this police force who uphold justice and the law, I've seen them to their own in conversations assume guilt before innocence. They will say about their own, there's no smoke without fire. There is often smoke without fire. You can have the worst toe rag, worst criminal in the town, come in and make a complaint against the most honest cop. He will be disciplined, put on a disciplinary charge, inquiry. And his own officers will be saying, what's he been doing now?
It's beyond wrong.
Look, I'm not out to destroy the police. I'm not saying the police are any different to any other body. But the police are saying, we are different. We're a family. Look, you don't have dustbin men going about saying we're a family. Or Tesco saying we're a family. But you've got the bloody police going about saying we're a family. There is no evidence of that. It's nonsense. I'm not out to destroy their reputation. God knows a lot of reputation is gone from how it was when I was an old school Bobby. But that's not all the fault of the frontline troops. Many of those lions have always been ready to roar. But there's not enough of them. They're being led by donkeys, and we're in a politically correct society where you can't be a copper. There are too many rules. If you're a copper, a proactive copper now, you're being inquired into every 2 minutes. On the other side of the coin, it must be a nightmare on occasions being a supervisory officer in the police force, or the fire brigade, or the ambulance. Because if a guy's not doing his job, if a sergeant or an inspector pulls them up and says, listen, you ain't doing the bloody what you get paid for here, then that's bullying. And he makes an allegation of being bullying. No, it ain't. It's not bullying. It's telling a bloody bloke he ain't earning his salt and to pull his socks up. But the world's gone crazy.
We wish you the very best. It's been great talking to you. Thank you for your time today.
I just want to just clear last thing up. When you introduced me, you called me former police officer, author, campaigner, and humanitarian. That's not how all the world sees me. They simplify it a lot by, I'm a troublemaker, and I'm a stirrer, and I'm a nuisance. That's the wording of many people who I chase down. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to speak to you, Ian. And I hope people join my group.
Where do they find the links for?
Well, they can go on Facebook and tap in Campaign for Medal Recognition for Injured UK Police Officers. I guess Campaign Medal Police Officers would bring it up. If you're a fireman or you're an ambulance, just add, instead of police, fire and ambulance. You can join one of the other ones. You can support it and track it. Thanks very much, Ian.
All right, it's an absolute pleasure, and we'll stay in touch with you, Tom. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.